They're the world's most fearsome fighting team. They're heroes in a half shell, and they're green. When the evil Shredder attacks, these turtle boys don't cut them no slack. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, heroes in a half shell. I'm Eddie Webb.
Wow. I'm Chris Spivey.
And today we're going to talk about, well, I already told you what we're going to talk about. I debated going full Shatner with that, but I decided to kind of step it back at the last minute before I fully committed to that.
Thank you for stating you were going Shatner, because that's who I thought I was on the Zoom with. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. I debated going full, they're the world's most fearsome, but I decided not to.
Eddie, so why are we doing this? Why are we doing this, Eddie?
Well, actually, I don't say real quick for those who don't know, because I'm surprised you didn't ask me to explain this. William Shatner created a very infamous spoken word album where he, instead of singing to covers of popular songs, simply spoke the lyrics to popular songs, and that was the homage I was kind of going for, which about 5 people in the world probably recognize that reference. But that's fine. That's fine. This podcast is about finding our audience and alienating them as fast as possible.
Because we're old now.
Yes.
And that was an old bit when we saw it.
Right. So this is super old. So the reason why we're talking about this is because this is the start of our toyetic run, which are cartoons that either stemmed from a toy line or spawned off a large toy line, or maybe a little bit of both. In this case, it was a bit of both, but also I thought this was a good one to start with because this is a cartoon that exists purely because of a toy line, and that toy line has been going on to today. So quick potted history is that it's in 1984. Kevin Eastman and Peter Liards created the Teenage Mutant Turtles comic book, which was meant to be a black and white parody of Frank Miller's Daredevil comics of the time. So they're meant to be very dark and gothic. And since we've already covered Daredevil, I will not explain Daredevil, but I see Chris gearing up to ask that question.
Actually, I was gonna push back on that, Eddie. You say this cartoon only exists because of the toy line.
Well, I'm getting there.
I say it only exists because of the wild success of the comic itself that 2 writers and artists created on at whim that became successful, and they take a gamble on themselves. That is an epic tale in and of itself.
Oh, sure, right. That's kind of where I was leading to, is that they self-published this comic and then created Mirage Studios, which is part of the joke, because it's a mirage. There was no studios. It was literally in Peter Laird's house. They got very successful to the point where they actually even started publishing other comics. In fact, they are the reason why the amazing Stan Sakai was able to publish the Usagi Yojimbo comics, which are also still running today. And that's one of the reasons why Usagi Yojimbo was very heavily connected with the Turtles. And in fact, there's even a Usagi Yojimbo toy as a result of that weird collaboration. But yeah, they exploded over the course of 84, 85. To the point where they couldn't keep up with it. Like the original comic book run, there would be months between issues because they were doing everything. So they had to print it, they had to sell it, distribution, everything. And so they didn't have time to actually write and draw the comic at times.
Because that first run, I think, God, if I remember right, they actually lived together with one of the wives in the house to sort of do all the work together. The first run was it 1,000 or 3,000 comics, some small number like that. And they had to borrow a whole bunch of money to be able to publish those.
Mm-hmm.
And all those sold out until they drew the attention of a real distributor.
Right. Exactly. And so Playmates approached them about the toy license. And at the time, Playmates were not really an action figure company. They were primarily doing dolls and vehicles. but they weren't really doing action figures yet. But they were seeing how big GI Joe, and specifically, was doing for Hasbro, and they wanted their own style of that in the market. And so when they came to a discussion, one of the things that Playmates said that needed to happen was if they do a toy line, if they commit to the scale toy they wanted to do, they needed to have an animated series to sell it. So this is not the first, but one of the more explicit. This show was explicitly created to sell toys. And so it's fascinating for a few reasons. One of which is that this is a rare case where Playmates has had the license to make TMNT toys and still does. Playmates still. There are other subcontracted toy lines from other companies, but Playmates still makes TMNT toys. So they've had the license pretty much persistently. In fact, Eastman and Liard have sold their shares of Turtles to Nickelodeon about 15 years ago. But part of the deal was they would still honor the Playmates contract. So it's a weird case of where this brand, it may be hyperbolic to say they saved Playmates, but certainly kept Playmates around, and now this is the main thing they do. So it's very much a synergy of scrappy indie comic creators get a toy license, which is their dream, and that leads to a somewhat obligatory cartoon, but it is the cartoon that catapults all of it to a whole new level. To the point where Mirage ends up having outsourced the Turtles comics to, I believe, Archie. And then eventually they just stopped making comics themselves entirely. The cartoon has had several iterations since the original 87 run. The original 87 run itself had 10 seasons, which is ridiculous in the 80s cartoons terms. It's a lot.
And that wild amount of success, though, meant they quickly had to then bring in a bunch of lawyers to help them protect and acquire the own rights to the IP that they had, because other people saw it was successful and started like claiming that they created the Turtles first, buying up the Turtles like names and different things in other countries. So then they had to come in to repurchase it from them so they would have it. And to think, though, that something you created around 84 at whim is so successful that in the early 2000s you sell it because it is your predominant part of your life and your career. That is
Yes.
unimaginable to me, that like the one thing I would do at an early age is all I do for 20 years, and then just like that is my only creative venture that I can go with.
Yeah, and as I understand it, uh, part of the reason is because also Eastman and Liard's over time evolved two different interests. Eastman always and still to this day wanted to make comics, and so Eastman is still an artist. And in fact, Eastman has been heavily involved in the IDW version of the TMNT comics, which have been, I think, they just rebooted after doing 150 issues. So like it's a good solid decade and a half of comics there that Eastman's been involved. He was the primary artist, but he did storyboards and was consultants for all of them. Whereas Liard was really much in the business side of things. He's the one who brokered the Playmates deal. He's the one who brokered the Nickelodeon deal. And while neither disclosed how much money they made, as I understand it, it is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9 figures. So they are very comfortable after this. But they went their separate ways. As I understand it, was not acrimonious, but they just kind of lost touch with each other. And then there was some bitterness there. But then a documentary series that Chris and I both talked about, it was the films who made us, but they just spun called the toys who made us. The Nickelodeon, or sorry, Netflix documentary series. They did one on TMNT. They interviewed both of them, and as a result of those interviews, they both gotten back in touch with each other. And since then, they have collaborated on a new Turtles comic, which is called The Last Ronin, and that has now led to subsequent spin-off comics and has now led to at least one movie. And so the TMNT new Last Ronin franchise has also spun off. So like these guys, just when they work together, clearly they work well and they can make good stuff that was very popular.
As long as it's based on a turtle.
True. And so yeah, so I felt like if we're going to talk about toyetic runs, it's one of the big three toy cartoons, right? Transformers, GI Joe, and this one. This one doesn't sometimes get as much ink because A, it's not Hasbro related, and so it's not been hammered to the ground. But also B, uh, uh, it was such a wild success in its time. A lot of Transformers and GI Joe were successful, but then kind of petered out and then came back after a successful renaissance. TMNT did have its fallow period, but it was much later than either Transformers GI Joe. They both had mid to late '90s fallow periods, whereas TMNT was pretty strong until like right around 2000, and then it went fallow for about 5 or 6 years before around I think it was 2007 when they relaunched. So I mean, it has a much longer tail, and so as a result, it's a good place to start this kind of run because then from here we could talk about other shows how they relate to TMNT, but time wise before or after, what kind of toys they had, impact they had, so on.
The journey of TMNT though is epic and different than anyone else because they went from like this to a movie to a road stage performance show that went on. There was no like GI Joe road musical show that went around the country. There was no
Right.
Transformers musical show that went around the country. There's now a band though that does dresses in Transformers and does like
Cybershorty
cosplay
and
band stuff,
Spree is
which is
amazing, and I will take no
pretty
questions on this
awesome.
point.
They're pretty awesome. One of the things I want to point out now, though, is we're going to start with TMNT, but we're not going to hit a lot of the bigger toy franchises. Actually, we went in the opposite direction. For instance, we're not going to cover Transformers. We're not covering GI Joe in this run.
Right. This is actually probably the biggest one we're going to cover. There's going to be a couple that you go, oh, that's a really big name, but we're going to talk about from the time that they were released. And also we're going to approach some different directions. Like some of these were successful cartoons that then led to toy lines. Some of these were toy lines that led to cartoons. This was a package deal. The toy line and the cartoon were made in sync. So 87's kind of when you need a cartoon to sell the toy was established wisdom. But we're going to play around this period. I think our run's going to last from the early 80s to the early 90s. So we're going to kind of float within this rough 10-year gap.
And if you really want us to cover Transformers GI Joe, you can drop us a note and let us know.
Yeah.
It was painful watching Eddy decide to not be able to cover Transformers. I think there were tears. There was like a whole thing.
No, because you have let me put in a substitute, which technically counts, and I'll be happy to talk about that when we get there.
Oh god! All right, my big question for you then, Eddy. Out of our 4 turtles here, and so I'm not counting Venus de Milo, who is your favorite turtle, and why?
So for a very long time, it was Michelangelo, right? Because he was the party dude, and he was the cool, the silly, funny, cool guy. Over time, I respect Mikey still. He has a certain place in my life, but I think Raphael's actually the one that I like the most now, because he is the closest to the actual intended parody. He is meant to be the Daredevil ripoff, the tortured soul, except he's not Catholic. He's just a turtle.
Nice. And his red mask that they gave him for the cartoon.
I feel like he's the very clear. This is what we intended here.
Cool.
How about you? Do you have a preference?
As a kid, it was Michelangelo because he was a party dude.
Right.
Although I've transitioned for a short while into Leonardo, but at the end of the day, my favorite turtle is Donatello.
Donatello, it does machines, I understand.
Raphael was never spoke to me like I'm also not a big Daredevil fan.
See, I am also a person who frequently tells people that my favorite vampire clan is Bruja, so of course Raphael's going to at some level appeal to me, right?
Well, that's funny because I like Bruja, but Bruja are not my favorite clan either. Interesting. Unless
Yeah,
they are
see?
the true Bruja, who are my favorites.
Take your time travel bullshit and get the hell out of here.
All right, since before we go totally down the rabbit hole of vampire clans, I will say from the base traditions, my preferred vampire clan is Ventrue.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Now I'm curious, how could you see that?
Uh, because, you know, you like to help people understand their place in things and to understand and appreciate the fact that ultimately they should just listen to you and you're right, but you're going to help them get to that point.
Oh god. So turtles.
Turtles are also correct. All right. Anything else before we talk about episode 1?
You mentioned that this is an offshoot of the Daredevil, and I think even in Daredevil we briefly touched on it. How exactly does this parallel Daredevil or
Okay.
parody Daredevil also in some senses?
So, the cartoon admittedly does not make this as clear, and I suspect that was probably intentional. Um, uh, but the comic is Daredevil's origin story is that a truck carrying some kind of undisclosed toxic thing. It's been nuclear waste in some versions. It's been mystical goop in another. So it's been unclear. But it falls off and hits the goop hits him in the temple, which causes him to go blind. Matt Murdock to go blind. And as a result, this is somehow tied to an ancient ninja clan known as the Hand, and that they are stalking him. And that's one of the reasons why the Hands are one of his major protagonists. The turtles were in the sewer next to that. So the goop hit in the street and then went into the sewers, landed on the turtles, and they are pursued by the Foot, which is a ninja clan that wants them back for undisclosed reasons. So the idea is that it was very common in the 80s to do wink, wink, nudge, nudge references to other comic book companies in a way that was legally deniable, but everyone kind of knew. I think we talked about that a bit in Speechless about how Marvel and DC would sometimes have events that the two heroes would just miss each other. So this is kind of in that same tradition, but the idea of the Ninja Clan being the Foot as opposed to the Hand moves it into intended parody.
And the other point is Daredevil had a mentor for a while called Stick.
Oh, right, and then they have a mentor called Splinter. Yes, that was the other one I forgot.
Yeah. So it is hard to miss if you are aware of both different comics, but it is pretty funny, and each stands on their own.
Right. I recently reread the first few issues of the original comic, and they're completely unrelated to the cartoon, so I won't even bother comparing the two. But what's interesting about them is that, first of all, Shredder dies the very first issue, which is fascinating. I had forgotten that had happened. And then after that, the aliens and battlesuits and whatnot happen like issues 2 and 3. So like Turtles gets weird real goddamn fast. And I think it was around issue 3 or 4 because luckily I have uh, uh, the classic collections, which also has commentary from both Eastman and Liard on them, talking about how they came to each issue and some of the things. And so one of the discussions is around issue 4, they were like, "Oh shit, this is blown up. We need to take a beat and figure out how we're going to turn this to an actual comic book now." And so it starts to pivot into actual storylines from there. But when it was repurposed for toys, they you could see glimmers of the original comics, but their Playmates went into a very different direction with it. It is barely recognizable. Like the color coded bandanas thing was not in the comics at all. They were black and white for one thing, but also they were always tended to be all red bandanas. And the turtles were only distinguishable by their weapon, and that was part of the joke of ninjas being interchangeable and indistinguishable. And no, we have to make sure these turtles are very clearly different. So not only do they have different color bandanas, but if you look closely, when the animators remember to do it, each turtle also slightly different shade of green. Leonardo's fairly light green, whereas Michelangelo's pretty dark colored green. So the way to visually tell immediately that they are different turtles. So,
and they also went and they gave them little belts with their initial on it.
yes, right.
So they've did a lot of changes like that, and they shaved off a lot of the edges so they can make a great successful toy line to sell to kids, because kids wouldn't buy it otherwise, which
Right.
becomes an entire profit motivation for everything.
Right. Yeah. And I may mention a little kind of this is a pretty radical to the comics, but if they come up, but otherwise, just know that these are very different properties. If you watch the cartoon and go read the original comics, prepare for an extremely different experience.
Trying to think if there's anything else really pertinent for the backstory, because once we leave Turtles, we're not coming back, and I don't know if we'll ever cover the 4 original movies, because I definitely don't want to talk about the Michael Bay movies. I have no interest in those.
God, no.
Um, though I would potentially cover the newish Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out. So then we could actually discuss, I think, the original intention of, I think, the character in the comics version of April versus the April in the cartoon, and that was presented going forward.
Yes, because she was not a newspaper reporter. She was a scientist in the original comic. Um, and then she became a newspaper reporter for in a yellow jumpsuit for some reason. And that's kind of how she was established. I will say, if people are interested,
I also think they race swapped her, because I thought in the comics she was supposed to be black, or at least she had.
no, well, she had very curly hair, but no, she was meant to be white. But Baxton was black, very clearly black in the comic. Or Baxter,
So
Stockton.
It's been a while since I've read it, so I need to go double check it. But I thought fairly certain April was supposed to have been a black person too. So,
Well, I'm saying because when they introduce Stockton later, how they shade his tone, very clear position of black man, and in fact she never had that shading. It may have been she made lighter skins, and that was wasn't clear in the comic. She certainly has curly black hair in the original comic.
because that was a lot of the controversy versus the new one that came out when they made April black, and then there's a whole controversial thing about it.
Right, of course there is.
Yeah, because oh, if you are ready to be splashed with mutagen and go on, I guess we could do that.
Okay, here we go. Season 1, Episode 1, Turtle Tracks. April O'Neil, an ace reporter for Channel 6, investigates recent break-ins, allegedly by ninjas, which have resulted in the thefts of numerous technologies. However, a chance encounter with a gang of thugs soon leads her to a bigger story when she is saved from the criminals by 4 ninja-trained mutated turtles. Who could have predicted that? So,
Is she an ace reporter?
She is the best reporter on the show we have seen so far.
Okay, that I will give you.
Certainly better than that person that hangs out with her.
You mean Vern? Vern's not a reporter.
He's not a reporter?
No, he was like her production aide or something, like the floor person.
Right. Okay. Floor director.
Now
okay,
we're just going to get into how like newsrooms work.
Right, because that's super important to this show. Because clearly the show cares about things like science and physics.
I thought you knew that Aaron Sorkin based the newsroom and all his television shows on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm doing the math. That's not theoretically impossible.
I know. Isn't that awesome? All right.
So this show is goofy, right? I came into this expecting it to be a little silly. It took me this episode first to go, okay, no, this is a silly show specifically aimed at kids to sell toys. And like, while I get that, none of the grit of the original comic is at all present. It's just all gone.
Well, you can't. They're not going to be able to sell toys of like the turtles from the comic where they're all black and white, the exact same, other than their weapons, stark, grizzled, grim faces. Not in the 80s.
Right.
They could do that now.
Right,
or you have collectors.
Yeah, and I think actually they have re-released just the kind of all of them wearing the red bandana toys at some point, but yeah, like, I mean, just stuff like these decisions can only be made by a samurai sword, and then April O'Neil then pivots to samurai swords like ninjas have. Let me explain ninjas to you. children of the 80s, because you couldn't possibly know what a ninja is. It's like, ma'am,
How else?
I used to own Storm Shadow and G.I. Joe. I know what a ninja is.
How else could we get the turtles coming from the shadows to fight shadowy figures back and forth to save April by bringing her down into the sewers without being ninjas?
Right, but it was just so funny because like, it was such a weird time period of like maybe people didn't actually know what ninjas were, but also it was right at the peak of Ninja Mania, so like it was both like weirdly reductive, but also plausible. It was kind of weird. Like I know what a ninja is, but maybe I didn't in '87. I thought I did. I thought I knew that.
I question whether or not people didn't know what it was, because didn't we have American Ninja 1, American Ninja 2, Return of the American Ninja 3? We had Cynthia Rathrock, who was like essentially a ninja in her movies. Eddie, we knew what ninjas were.
Right, so I thought really. So. I felt like this was something we knew. But I guess maybe kids didn't. I don't know. It was weird. I don't want April ninja splaining to me, is what I'm saying.
I did like, though, that when she was down there, it went from rescued hostage to blackmailing the turtles to active cohort. It was a nice, quick transition of steps.
Yeah, like they're trying to set up this thing of like the turtles are supposed to be secret and no one's supposed to know who they are, and like we go through that plot. April goes through that plot within like 5 minutes. It's like, I'm gonna reveal yourself to the world. Nah, I'm just kidding. I want to help you out. You guys are cool.
But then we get the confrontation with April and Splinter, which then Splinter gives his backstory about how everything goes, and it's building up, and it quickly, so kids can be quick on board. Then we can get into finger quotes action.
Finger quotes action, right? Although before we get into that, we have the prevalence of your favorite trope, which is wearing a fedora and trench coat is all you need to pass invisibly.
I would like to know when that was first created. Like, who was the person that came up with it and made it a trope, so I can go back in time and stop them?
The earliest I have found would have been Jack Kirby, because he used it in pretty early in Fantastic Four. I feel like it may have been a thing before then, though.
Well, anyone with any sense would not fuck with Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby would go onto the street to punch Nazis, so you don't mess with Jack. Then I will let it go.
So you go back in time and ask Jack to find out who started that thing and have him punch them.
Oh my God, Eddie. That's my new comic series. Chris and Jack kicking
Kirby
ass.
punches people.
That's it. I will pilot a time device, and Jack Kirby will just jump out and punch bad guys.
Oh, speaking of Jack Kirby, I know you're probably not planning to watch the new Fantastic Four movie, but I will say the new Fantastic Four movie thanks Jack Kirby and does not mention Stan Lee.
I love that they did it, but it's not enough to make me go see the Fantastic Four.
I know.
I know. Zero interest in that movie.
No, but I know that you are, like me, someone who feels like Kirby's contribution to these comics was massively diminished, and I thought you'd appreciate the fact that at least some people are trying to reverse that course.
It was, God, King Kirby.
Kirby's awesome. But yeah, speaking of Kirby, some of these punks look like they could have been designed by him, because they are straight out of the 70s, man. Maybe even the 60s.
Eddie, these are our punks from the Warriors. We know that the creators were watching the Warriors. They pulled in design for them, and they made them cartoonerized. If you want to see the Warriors, which I recommend, don't watch it with your
kids. Don't. It is a great movie, but also, if you ever wondered where the trope of thematic gangs that all dress around a theme comes from, it's that movie, The Warriors. I mean, it may have happened before them, but The Warriors definitely
popularized it.
Yeah, totally.
Warriors, come out and play! Love it.
Let's see. Okay, I need to ding a few things here, like these. They don't last for long, but Splinter and Shredder both have these awful Japanese accents. They're not good. Spoiler alert, they Shredder drops his next episode, and Splinter drops his a couple episodes after that. So I mean, they go away fast. But in this first episode, it's like, oof, buddy, no, don't do that.
Is this going to be a staple of 80s cartoons as we go through them?
I hope not. I can confirm that it does come up in the Transformers original cartoon, so it's certainly of the time.
I can't remember G.I. Joe well enough to know if it happens there or the Bionic Six.
Actually, yeah, going back to Ninja Point, right? In the '84 Transformers cartoon, one of the first episodes is a Japanese guy invents a ninja robot who he calls Ninja, and also explains what a ninja is there too. But so like ninjas were around at least in '85, so I'm mad about this.
Well, I think you would be even madder when you go and there are robot ninjas in RoboCop 3.
Oh God,
which is a couple years away, but still.
Yeah, RoboCop. That's a very that's a movie we should cover at some point, honestly, because that is surprisingly good.
But now we're all over the place. All right, pulling us back here to this episode. Yeah. I'm gonna like stake it in the wall. How Shredder staked Splinter's robe into the wall in one of the episodes.
That's next episode actually, but yes. So the origins kind of split across both of them, but yeah, like it's speaking of Splinter or Shredder actually, I was a little confused when I first watched the episode of like, is Shredder supposed to be stupid? And then I realized no, he's they intentionally designed him this way because like my favorite line is he's in his secret lair, of course, watching big television screens like you do when you're an 80s villain, is watching all this action on a giant TV screen. And he goes, they must know about the Technodrome. Let me go on the PA and tell all the foot. Don't let me get to the Technodrome. It's like, buddy. So, yeah, no, I get that's the gag. The Shredder is not good at being an evil manipulator. So,
and it's nice that we see the Turtles and April team up to actually start trying to investigate the case as they're wandering around the streets before they encounter the robot ninjas. Because the thing that I'm going back thinking about it, Splinter doesn't know who Shredder is yet, and Shredder doesn't know who Splinter is yet. So the Turtles must not have really confronted the Foot before this.
Yeah, we get the impression, and I think it's clarified in the next episode, that Splinter is part of the Foot, but the Turtles themselves have not encountered them.
Because that's when we get our great ninja pizza, ninja dentist, top notch.
Yes. Hot, super peak cover stories there.
When he like throws the bill on the table with a ninja star thing.
Yeah,
hands down.
I just love the idea that this is a deep underground organization that goes, hey, no one knows what ninjas are, so we'll just call everything ninja and it'll be fine. No one will possibly figure it out. All right. Anything else about the episode? First episode.
I want to talk about the massive skyscraper that Shredder owns. We got to say your great quote from, though, that the Turtles go in, and in desperation, he floods the entire place to escape the Technodrome.
Oh, yeah. What? Yes. How is this guy? How is the secret ninja clan funding everything? Yeah, there's like so many questions.
No, that was my big thing, because it was like skyscraper, Technodrome hidden in the base of it, flood it so the Turtles can't find it.
Right. Yeah, because I have that plan prepared. That's the other thing that I'm enjoying about really 80s villains in cartoons in general, but specifically the Shredder / Krang group, which we'll get into Krang more next episode, is the fact that they just have plans prepared for the most ridiculous situations. Like, what if I need to flood my entire skyscraper? Well, I should prepare for that. I should put the infrastructure in place to do that. That makes sense.
You know what this does feel like, though? I don't think the license has happened yet, but this feels like it is a TMNT Palladian RPG game. Because, like, the DM is sitting there running it. The players are getting too successful. And he's like, fuck, I don't want to catch my villain yet. He floods the entire building. It's just GM fiats left. Got to make it happen. Happens here. Happens there.
Right. I'm pretty sure someone has worked the TMNT RPG into Rifts at some point. That had to have happened.
Do you really want me to get into a whole Rifts talk right now as I'm running
Sure, why
Rifts? I
not?
could make a whole discussion about how they put out their conversion book. That is utter nonsense. But you can convert everything over to Rifts. It's a matter of if you want it to be MDC or STC, how much you need to increase the STC by if it stays STC, which is pointless in MDC universe. But
Right.
whole different thing.
Yeah, because I know TMNT was all SDC. They didn't have. I think there was maybe one thing that had MDC, maybe, but I'm almost positive it wasn't. But anyway,
I don't think they created MDC until they put out Robotech. Which, can we take a beat to talk about how fortunate and lucky some of these RPG companies are to acquire licenses for things? Like, there is no way Kevin Symbiotic could have got this IP if he had not asked when he did for it.
yeah, no, totally, absolutely. Similar to how Arch Historian had the Bubblegum Crisis RPG, stuff like that. It's back when licensed RPGs were like, here's $20 and a stamp. There you go.
They even had Arch Historian even had Demon City for anyone that knows that one.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Episode 2. Enter the Shredder. To combat the Ninja Turtles, the Shredder decides to mutate 2 street thugs into beastly supermen. In the battle, the Turtles learn more about their origins and their connection to Shredder. So, 80% of the reason why I picked this episode is because it's got Bebop and Rocksteady, who are like my favorite villains. Because they're awesome.
So, then we have to discuss how infinitely stronger they are compared to the Turtles.
Why?
Because
we have to discuss it, but what is the reason?
It's science, Eddie. Kind of how Steve took the super soldier serum that amplified his strength. They talked how if Steve had actually worked out and not have been an 80-pound weakling, he would have been stronger. Because if you look at it, Steve Rogers gets it, can lift maybe 800 pounds to a ton. Doesn't work out, not 8-pound weakling. John Walker, psychotic soldier, can lift like 10 tons. So on that principle alone, the little turtles get mutated, and they'd been around Splinter, who would say is average or higher than normal strength. Turtles get slightly higher than average strength. Great thing for Turtle. Right. Rocksteady and Bebop, they're living that criminal life, so they're obviously, we'll say, a little bit stronger than normal. And then they're mutated by vastly stronger creatures, so their strength is compensated like that. There you go. I've marvelized it for you via the super serum, how it works.
So you're saying that canonically, turtles are stronger than rats?
No. I'm saying,
or rats stronger than turtles.
Correct. But Splinter wasn't a rat yet. He was still a human who becomes a rat.
Right. See, does the direction of the mutation matter is the question.
I think it does. It's got to be a vital part of it.
Because according to this cartoon, to keep it just this cartoon, Splinter, Bebop, and Rocksteady are all humans that became animals, whereas the turtles were turtles that became humans, kind of humans.
But Splinter's creature that he became had itty bitty strength. So his strength and everything goes down. Why you don't see Splinter jumping around or lifting anything but a little stick. Hence, Splinter has reduced strength from his mutation. The turtles have greater strength. Rocksteady and Bebop have massively greater strength. Boom. Science.
That's I can't argue with it. It's just science. Please submit your paper to an academic journal.
Some people may put pseudo on the start of my word, but I just call it science.
I prefer to preface your with mad, but whichever works.
Which also goes to why you can see they fight them. They can't beat them without outthinking them. It's kind of a juggernaut problem.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Bebop and Rocksteady are cool. I mean, and something else is that this is the fact that Bebop is black and Rocksteady is white is just not really. It's so casually presented of like, oh yeah, of course they're just 2 punks, one's black, one's white, and then they become animals, and that's cool. I appreciate, because especially in the 80s, that's a rare bit of just deft inclusion,
Yeah, it was nice to see, and the fact that everyone on Shredder's side is not the smartest person. So it's just
Yeah.
not them either. It's across the
Right.
board, which is a good thing to see, which they have to do in some sense to make Shredder feel smart.
Right, in comparison. Although, actually, given the fact that most of the Foot are robots and Krang is an alien, that does make Rocksteady the token white dude of the evil side.
But we saw, though, that he had a group of punks
Right.
that were there, and most of those punks are white.
Right. But still, it was just an interesting note of like, oh, yeah, when you do the math, granted, most everyone is wearing cutlery or an animal or an alien. So, like, it's, take the rough with the smooth, as it were. But, I just, especially also, I think part of it is I like the nicknames, like Bebop and Rocksteady, like, two different genres of music, but they're not quite, and neither of them, like Rocksteady is like rock, but, like Bebop is not a music genre you expect with hard punks. It's just, I've always liked their vibe. Speaking of
And
vibes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna change topics. So
I was just gonna note that I like how each episode is individualized, but yet it has undergoing a little bit of a current to it for continuity for the story. It's nicely played.
Yeah. The first five episodes actually feel more like a comic book, weirdly, because each one is, each episode is self-contained, but it does feel like if you've read the previous issues, watched the previous episodes, that you're rewarded for the continuity. That is not a status quo that will last, but for these few episodes, it is a nice touch.
And I know that you said you read the comic and it's about 5 or 6 issues. Do these episodes kind of line up with the comic?
Very rough beats they do, yeah. Like Shredder gets killed in episode 1 or issue 1, but Krang gets introduced in issue 2, and I think the Dimension X stuff that we see here comes around issue 2 or 3. Technodrome comes in issue 3 or 4. So I mean, if someone gave you like a 2-sentence summary of each issue and then said build episodes around it, it would roughly line up.
Okay, interesting.
Although Bebop and Rocksteady are not in the original comic, they are actually they're originally a creation for the RPG, before they got put together with all the other character concepts that Eastman did, and so they got used into the cartoon as a result of that. Well, actually, they got used by toys and then got used in the cartoon because they were made toy stuff.
So the Yo Joe moment for that, for any actual companies or IP holders that are listening, is that you need to go and find an RPG developer, likely Eddie or myself, and sell us your IP cheap, and we'll make you a great game. And then whatever we make, it'll instantly become a classic and make you a franchise.
Absolutely. That's just science. Again, put it with the other paper.
Yep.
Science. All the science we're spitting out today. Anything else about episode 2?
Do you gonna skip over the most important part of this episode, Eddie?
Which part is that?
They hinted at the first episode, but here it is cemented the pizza love in this episode. And the sushi. Come on, like top-notch discussional point for the 80s.
No, that's fair enough. Like, in fact, there are only 2 options in this show, which is discussing pizza or sushi. Which, when I watched it, I was like, well, obviously sushi, but I had cast my mind back and remember, oh, that's right. In the 80s, we all thought sushi was disgusting, didn't we?
Silly people.
Yeah. So weird. Why would you do that? But yeah, I mean, the whole weird toppings on pizza gag, I guess, starts here, right? Because it is going to be an ongoing joke for a very, very, very long time with the cartoon and with the franchise, frankly. Pizza definitely was not I don't think it was really in the comic. Again, I've only read the first handful of issues. But it's become such a part of the franchise now that pizza comes up on a pretty regular basis. It's just kind of like the token food of the Turtles. Well, specifically a token food of Mikey, who then therefore becomes token food of Turtles.
Did you notice, though, now that we're talking about they're in the second episode, in both episodes, someone from the turtle side is kidnapped and they have to go rescue them?
Oh, yeah, no, I hadn't noticed that.
Like April from the first one, Splinter from this one.
And I think that happens in episode 5 too, technically. Well, no, No, that doesn't.
We're not there yet. We're still here.
Yeah. Yeah, but boys, like, yeah, it just. I brought it up just because I'm wondering if it's specific trends or if it's just we have a huge cast. I guess kidnap someone.
I don't know. Just interesting. Now I'm gonna think if I kind of want to go watch a couple more episodes to see if it's a recurring thing, but yet I'm not moved enough to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's the vaguely interested. Maybe a wiki will tell me somewhere.
All right. I guess we can exit the shredder.
Exit the shredder. Yeah. Enter the shredder. Exit the shredder. I see what you did there. Episode 5: Shredder and Splintered. When the Turtles learn that Shredder has built a ray that can undo mutations, the Turtles decide to steal it in the hopes of turning their master Splinter human. What they don't know is that Shredder has finally built the warlord Krang a new body, and Krang intends to summoning his armies to Earth. We forgot to mention, but yeah, this is a subplot of the first 2 episodes was Krang going, "You can build me a body," and Splinter's like, "Yeah, whatever." Or Shredder's like, "Whatever, I'll get to it. Shut up." And so now he's finally gotten around to it.
Because he doesn't want to do it if he doesn't have to, so that keeps Krang as his minion, which is a nice power play for him, reinforcing who that character is.
Yeah. One thing I do like, I'm briefly jumping to the end of the episode here, but is that the Krang Shredder relationship is not a Starscream Megatron relationship, for lack of a better term, right? It's not the one is always subordinate to the other. Instead, it is a power play, and they're constantly shifting who is in control, which I've always thought was interesting for the Turtles thing, is that sometimes Krang is on top and pushes Shredder around, sometimes Shredder's on top, sometimes they break up and have 2 competing evil empires. So like there's always a political component between the 2 of them, a dynamic which I always found really interesting.
Did you know that Laird and Eastman in an interview said that one of the original ideas for this was to have Shredder's body becomes Krang's new body?
Oh God, that would be horrifying.
They decided against it because it would like detract from the 2 characters individually.
That definitely a smart move.
I do not think they would have gotten additional seasons if they'd done that.
No. I think there's certainly some things that you just cannot do.
Because that goes into body horror, which doesn't work for this slapstick comedy.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, make it a big dumb robot. Yes, that is the correct answer. I mean, but one thing I've also liked is a lot of times when you get this, you've built me a robot body, is like usually the person is in the head somewhere, whether it's like their brain's in a jar or their head's on top of a robot body. The visual of Krang being in the stomach is actually really fun. It's meant to be kind of a visual joke, but it's just stuck around because people are like, no, this is canonically Krang lives in this robot stomach. That's just how things work now. And so we've kind of come to accept it, but like when you first think, no, it's just kind of a silly moment of like, you open the code, like, there's a belly there and it's got a pink face on it.
So do you like it better that it's in the belly?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, it also makes for a good toy. I mean, if you're making toys, right? It's the, I just think I could shove it into his belly and then, yeah, it's cool.
Are you telling me then that the Transformers would have been infinitely more profitable if they had made Transformers Tummy Masters?
You say that. Technically they're called Breast Masters, but technically we did have toys where their chest does become an animal that pops off their body. So
I was going with Headmasters. I didn't even know about the other one. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go in deep Transformers lore, there it is.
And if people wonder why we didn't do Transformers, right there.
Because it would just be me going, and then this other thing, and Chris going, for like 2 hours each episode. So,
yeah. And it would be me making segues how I do now, but Eddie would be less amused because I'd be detracting him from his joy of Transformers.
But let me talk about my special interest. Right now, I get you. Yeah. Speaking of accents, one thing I've been noticing, hard shift. No, is the Japanese accents at this point are disappeared, which is good, smart move. But Michelangelo's accent has moved from vaguely California dude to full on Keanu Reeves Bill and Ted. He's like, hey, dude, garlic, dude. And it's just like, I thought it was always there. And I was like, oh, maybe the accent's not as subdued as I remember it. And I got this episode. I was like, nope, there it is. There's Mikey's accent. And the first Cowabunga, as far as I know.
Can we talk about the epic battle between Splinter and Shredder? The one we've been waiting for 5 episodes to build up to this point. We had like Shredder literally broadcast into the Turtles base saying he has like a remutagen gun for Splinter, which they know it's a trap. So we go in, Splinter breaks in, the Turtles are off trying to climb a wall. And then, oh my God, I almost forgot the best part.
What?
Going back a minute. They have this amazing flying car. I'm assuming that they got from somewhere that we missed the episode for.
Yeah.
And I love, and they make a big deal about how it's kitted out with weapons. And then you get the stick that it runs out of gas.
Yes. That is actually a funny gag of like, look at this cool car. Oh crap. I guess get the turtle van. Get the other toy. Oh wait, get the turtle blimp. It's like, how many toys are we going to check off this list, man?
So then we get to actually see the Turtles break up into different teams. Like Donatello's goes to build something and the rest of them are fighting. And we get like a comical call from Donatello to the Turtles in the middle of a fight. Oh, all right, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Certainly the, like this show's never going to stop having quippy one-liners during fights. That's just what this show is. But certainly they seem to be dialing in the humor a bit better. Yeah, because I loved that thing of, hey, something happened. Hey, we're in the middle of a fight. All right, I'll come back later. Or like when the maid breaks in on him and he's like, oh shit, I've been discovered. And she's just like, hey, what's up? You know, just like no cells that he's obviously a giant mutant turtle. And she's like, yeah, cool, whatever. I mean, the humor seems to be dialed a bit more.
But it's even better because I think she said, you're looking a little green. You should eat your medicine or take your... Oh!
Right. Yes.
Slapstick kid humor. Love it.
Yeah. But yeah, and also to your point, they're also figuring out, hey, we have a large cast. We can break them up and have them do different things. So we can move the plot along a bit faster if like their turtles are in different places doing different stuff and coordinating. Because now they have turtle communicators. They can talk to each other. They don't need to be right next to each other.
Is that called shell power?
No, it's Heroes in a Half Shell, yeah.
No, the communicators are shell power, Eddie. Come on. That
does remind me. I was talking with TMNT with some friends of mine here in the UK, and one of them said like, "Oh, you mean the Hero Turtles?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Turns out, in the early '90s, there was a big to do in the UK about what they called ninja swords, because there's a lot of knife crime in particularly in London, but in a lot of parts of the UK. And so for some reason, Japanese swords were particularly picked on, and they were just colloquially called ninja swords. And because TMNT was getting popular, they had to change the title. Like the whole title sequence, the song, everything. So where all references to the word ninja changed with hero for the turtles themselves. The villains could still be ninjas. And then specifically, nunchucks were also bans in the UK. So Michelangelo's, all of his animation was, anytime he used a nunchuck, it was replaced with a grappling hook.
That seems like it'd be worse.
Yeah, way worse. Right? It's like, and so instead of using two wooden sticks on a metal chain, you're going to tell kids to take a rope with giant fucking fish hooks on it and throw that at people. That seems worse, right?
Mind you, it also would stop people from hitting themselves in the face with a nunchuck. So maybe...
True. Right. But yeah, like, so I mean, it was just kind of a weird thing of like, it's so, because it's such a toy driven show, to go, oh shit, these toys don't work in this particular market, so we have to change our advertising vehicle to fit the market that we want to sell these toys in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Splinter jumps into a fight with Shredder, notices a trap. I like how the fight only happens in those 3 discs that are strategically placed on the floor.
Oh, right, yeah. So it's like animate. Here's a space you can animate in. So
So our trap can go off and Shredder can escape.
right. It's ridiculous. But I mean the fight as you talk about, I mean it's kind of perfunctory because a lot of the fights in this show are really just do an action thing and make a joke during it. Let's string a few of those together and then we're done. And for most of the episodes, that's fine. That actually works pretty well. The turtles go in, they get a few lines off, they get to show their weapons, some robots blow up, and then you move on to the actual plot of the show is. So when you lead up to 5 episodes worth of these two people who have hated each other since they were humans finally getting to fight, and then you kind of get roughly the same style of action, it definitely is like, that was nowhere near as epic as it should have been.
Yeah. Which, in one level, though, it also pales in comparison to the turtles fighting a giant robot with a alien in its tummy outside to the midside.
Yeah, it's there's a lot going on, but and I mean, if you think about it, if you take popular consensus of TMNT out of your brain for a second, there is a ton going on here, right? It's like, okay, in 5 episodes, there are mutants. Mutants exist. So these turtles have turned into part human. These humans have turned into a rat, a warthog, and a rhino specifically. Um, there may be others. There's a ninja clan who are also secretly robots, who are also not so secretly robots, who are run by a guy who covers himself in cutlery, who has a relationship with a guy from a different dimension who is an alien, who also has his own army and his own dimension, who want to invade Earth. And they have built something called a technodrome, which is underground on top of their giant building. And the rat and the guy in cutlery hate each other. The alien hates the guy because the guy's making him a suit. And also, by the way, the turtles, one of them is an inventor and has made a blimp, a van, and communicators, and also has a flying car from a different dimension. And it's just like, what has happened in the past 2 hours of my life?
Good storytelling.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, it goes by so fast, as you say, like so much is going on, but because the humor, because it's all steeped in this jokey dad humor, it just kind of washes over you. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure. There's a warthog with a laser gun who used to be a punk. Okay, whatever.
And I like the end beat, though, of the episode for Krang and Shredder to have gone to the other dimension, and Shredder realizing after Krang tells him that he's now his minion, and for the turtles to have that moment where like their parent figure Splinter sacrifices for their happiness.
Right. Yeah. It's a way to kind of inject a moral into the story without the ham-fisted and knowing's half the battle bit at the end, you know?
So it would have been a great place to stop there if they did not get a second, third, fourth, so on and so on season.
Right. And yet they did. And so we move on to season 2's episode 6, The Case of the Killer Pizzas.
Do we have to?
Krang gives Shredder a collection of Dimension X eggs that resemble meatballs to plant on pizzas for the turtles in order to destroy them. When the pizzas meant for the turtle end up accidentally getting sent away for delivery instead, the green foursome must stop the creatures that emerge before they run amok in the city. Because this plan makes no goddamn sense.
It doesn't.
No. Like, Dr. Doom would come in as a consultant, and it's like, you need to simplify your plan a bit more. I, a man who has thrown a plant together with cosmic power so I can watch people fight because I think it's funny, I'm telling you that maybe your plan has too many steps.
He's also the guy that stood outside the Baxter building with a megaphone shouting at the Fantastic Four to come out and fight him. So
yes,
there's a place for complex and too simple.
right. But certainly this falls on the complex side because, like, okay, A, find eggs that look exactly like meatballs. Sure. B, put them on pizzas. Okay, bit weird, but they're turtles and turtles eat weird stuff on pizza, so I guess I can see that logic. C, have them delivered to turtles. Okay, fine. D, those turtles have to receive the pizzas, and then E, put them into the microwave to cause the eggs to expand. And it's like, okay, so that requires, there's so many points of failure in this plan. Also, who microwaves pizza, right?
Well, then you forget the little cute aliens have to then jump off the pizza to escape to go into long enough to become the large scary monsters to come back to fight the turtles.
Right, these scary monsters that are totally not Geiger aliens painted red.
To which James Gunn watched this, obviously saw this, and stole part of this plot beat and put it into the new Superman movie. And I would recommend the Superman movie.
So you're saying Superman movie involves pizza and meatballs being put in microwaves?
I'm saying it involves some plot element from this as a minor subplot in it.
Okay, well, if someone could make that plot line work, it would probably be James Gunn. So, I guess props to him.
He made people believe that a man could fly. Again.
But can he make you believe that Alfredo's accent is not Mario?
Oh, nobody can do that.
It's a spicy meatball. It's.
Who is Irma, Eddie? I'm sitting here. Okay, I know Rachel. I know Vern. I know the crew. And now she's hanging out with someone named Irma.
Right. So in season 2, the supporting cast grows slightly. And 2 of them we see here. Irma is, as I understand it, April O'Neil's research assistant. So basically, she is an excuse for April O'Neil to tell somebody else to go look things up and come back with information. So she's basically a plot device / person to talk to. And then there's also Baxter Stockman, who is a scientist, because apparently Shredder decided he's no longer a scientist even after inventing the demutagen gun. And the building a suit, he thought, you know what, I'm going to outsource my science to somebody else. And so he gets Baxter Stockman on board. Unfortunately, Baxter was black in the comics, white here. So that's an unfortunate trend of whitewashing that I'm not happy with. But he turns into a fly, so fuck him.
So he looks just like Jeff Goldblum, is what you're saying?
I'm pretty sure the Baxter Stockman turns into a fly thing is supposed to be a reference to the Jeff Goldblum Fly movie. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, I was just gonna say, it seems like they put these characters in just so that each side have someone to talk to exposit to.
The utter ridiculousness of the alien xenomorphs versus the turtles in the sewer is black. I feel like that was one of the biggest letdowns I've seen out of these episodes.
Plus, because this is like a little bit in season 2, so it's been about, I think it's like 30 or 40 episodes. And so I would hope the Turtles' personality is fleshed out more, but it seems like Leonardo has become bland leader character. He feels like Cyclops, and like not cool Cyclops, but Cyclops from the first season of the X-Men animated series.
So this has been about 12 or 13 episodes, because the first season was only 5 episodes, and this is episode 6-ish of second season.
Still. I feel like you should have at least a little more involvement.
After first season, you should have a solid beat on all your characters and how they operate.
Right. And clearly, Mikey and Donatello are dialed in, right? They're very strong personalities. Raphael's still kind of wisecracking, but in a slightly different way than Michelangelo does. But Leonardo's just like, I'm going to be the serious leader who does serious leader things. And she's like, oh, man. Come on, Leo. You can do better than this.
I think a lot of cartoons, though, have an issue of problems trying to figure out how to portray a leader that's authoritative but yet cool to be with everyone else. It's a recurring thing. Kind of how...
That's true.
Optimus Prime isn't even cool, but Optimus Prime is like everyone's dad. So that's why he gets a pass.
Right.
But
is Duke cool, No. In G.I. Joe? Yeah.
No.
Everyone, Snake Eyes is cool, but he's not the leader and sometimes rebels against the leader,
So I'm trying to think of anything. And even if you go and look at Silverhawks, what's his nose isn't cool.
Quicksilver's not cool, no.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's a thing that they never quite cracked.
Lion-O.
But, Lion was a 13-year-old kid in a 30-year-old man's body. That's a whole nother level of discussion we got to have for that.
Fair enough. But no, you're right. It's hard, right? It is that the idea of someone has to be the responsible one in each cartoon, and the responsive one is the boring one. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And it's not Splinter, which is interesting because they could have done that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
right.
about.
Like Splinter actually has more character and personality than Leonardo does, because it's like Splinter is a little mischievous. He's not adverse to making a joke every now and then, as we've seen from a couple episodes. And of course, it's hard because when you have boring Leonardo compared to Shredder, who's like, I'm going to wear my armor with knives and a face mask, just put a robe over top of it and walk out in disguise and have everyone completely not recognize me. And it's like, when you're dealing with that level of bonkers, and then you have just go get them, turtles. It's like, oh man, you're not really catching up to this, are you?
I can't believe we've reached the end of the first toyetic episode, Eddie, and it was the legendary Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and their great theme song.
Yeah, no, totally. So what are your final thoughts of the show?
That, in retrospect, so I think I may or may not have mentioned, but I saw it like maybe 5 years ago with my kid because I was introducing her to it, and like the family would sing the theme song, which is why I specifically mentioned it because it's always brings joy. They leave before the episodes.
Right.
And now I think it's fascinating to see the original version of it and the artistic vision more for each genre and iteration of the Turtles, but how the underlying premise stays the same and people find it engaging. So it's updated for every generation to keep it flowing. And I think that's fabulous. This specific cartoon, I am an old man that's too old for it, but I still found some parts I like.
That's actually kind of where I'm at too, is because I think the concept is evergreen. Because the idea of cool mutant animals that are secretly ninjas that are hiding out and fighting other ninjas is just always going to be an interesting and fun concept. But I'm with you. Like, I absolutely respect what this show is doing, and I can respect the craft of it. But much like your family, if an episode came on, I would hang out, watch the opening credits, and then probably turn the channel after the credits were done.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we started with it though, because this is going to be the most successful one we do, because we skipped Transformers and GI Joe to go in a different direction.
Right. So everything else is going to be a bit different, not as successful, let's say. Although there's going to be some surprises. We're going to talk about some shows you're going to be like, oh, that's successful, and it's like, yes, but nowhere near the level of the top three.
And then we're going to talk about some. Then we're going to talk about some. You say, why are they talking about this?
For example, what are we talking about next week?
We're going to talk about Mask. Do you know what Mask is? I didn't know what Mask was because I'd never seen it before. Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command. We're going to cover episodes, season 1, episode 1, The Death Stone, season 1, episode 11, Magma Mole. Guess what? Season 1, episode 35, In Dutch. And lastly, season 1, episode 40, Eyes of the Skull. Eddie, would you include a link to where people can watch these? Because they're kind of on Amazon Prime if you want to buy them, but they only have 2 of the 4 we're going to cover, and they might be findable on YouTube or something like that.
I'd love to, but part of the reason why I stopped doing it, honestly, is because in different countries there are different restrictions, and also they change so rapidly these days. So I would say just do a search. Check out, there's a website called Just Streaming that will tell you where you can find things in your country. But also a lot of these, frankly, I found on YouTube and archive.org. So, I think you can probably find a lot of these just by doing some searching online, but it's so hard to keep on top of 5 million streaming services and what month, because like there are times when we're doing these episodes where we'd say, hey, it's available on this, and then by the time the episode came out, that service stopped showing it and it's on somewhere else. So, I mean, it's just hard to get on top of everything.
Yeah, because we were watching actually the 90s Newhart, doing a rewatch of it, and we're in the middle of season 2 when it disappeared off the streaming service we're watching it on, and no one has the rights for it.
Yeah. Or similarly, there was a big to-do about how Rusty Davies got all of classic Doctor Who onto BBC iPlayer, and that was true for about a year, and now just chunks of it are breaking off like icebergs. So I mean, like you can watch a lot of classic Doctor Who, but like just random episodes are gone. Random chunks of it are gone. Other chunks of it are there. And a lot of times these streaming services will get like, hey, this is leaving streaming in like 5 days. What? I had no clue. So yeah. So I mean, if you are really looking for a place when the episode comes up, feel free to jump onto the Darker Hue Discord and we can try tracking down where it's at the moment. But yeah, that's why I kind of stopped doing links because it's just sorry to keep on top of it all.
So in short, become a pack rat and collect as much physical media as you can because it is more reliable than streaming services.
Yes, that is why I have an entire DVD set of Danger Mouse cartoon for exactly this reason.
Oh god.
Anyway, Chris, if people wanted to talk to you about your Turtle Communicator, where would they find you online?
You could find me on Blue Sky at darker_hue. You could jump in the Dark Hue Discord, or if you want to give me money, you could come to Harlem Unbounding, my Patreon, where I drop cool stuff, and we do an actual Patreon episode of Journalists every month of something wacky that however I randomly decide to do. Days before I decided I'd change it on Eddy at the last minute.
Yes, not at all concerning or frustrating.
What about you?
As for me, you can find me at pugsteady.com. That is my website, which I just recently renewed for disturbingly large amount of money. It's also where you can find me on Blue Sky, or you can come to the Darker Hue Discord, where we're often just posting memes, and sometimes occasionally people come in and talk about the episode in question. We love when people are like, hey, I listened to the episode and I'm really excited about it. But feel free to come in and chat with us there if you'd like. But with that, we will see you next time where we talk about Mask.